All right, guys, let's go to the phone lines now. First interview of today's show. Certainly a lot has been happening across the NFL, so very excited to bring this guest on with me. We've been working on this for the last few days as he is about to make a trip down here to Myrtle Beach for the second year in a row. He will be here for the Hootie and the Blowfish Monday after the Masters. Many of you will get the chance to see him and his partner, Mike Greenberg, doing their show on location that Monday. He is our nationally syndicated morning show host, Mike Golic. Mike, thanks so much for a few minutes. A wild day across sports today.
Boy, I tell you, the last couple of days, how about it? How between the Peyton Manning announcement and press conference, and now this. Everything seems to be breaking about 1 Eastern time in the afternoon the last couple of days, and this being a double banger with the whole bounty thing, and then Tebow as well getting traded. So I guess that's why they say there really is no off season in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. First, let me talk to you about Monday after the Masters, and then I would love to get your reaction on the different things that have broken today. You guys are about to make a trip down here back to Myrtle Beach. You've been talking it up on the show. You had the chance to come down last year for this event that brings all kinds of professional golfers and celebrities, rock stars, all kinds of people coming to the beach, and we're excited to have you guys come back again.
It is so much fun. The only downside for me is I can't be there the entire weekend. I mean, it's Easter weekend, so I'm actually taking my family. We're going to go to my parents' house. So I'll come in actually on Easter Sunday, but I mean, Darius and his guys put on great shows all weekend, and then the tournament's fantastic. At the House of Blues Monday night, that concert just fantastic. It's a great weekend, great way to raise money for Hootie and the Blowfish and their charities, and how much they've done. I know they've raised just under $5 million since they've been doing this. So you get to come to a beautiful place, golf at a beautiful course, hear phenomenal singing and entertainment. I don't know what's really wrong with all that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty great situation.
Well, we're looking forward to having you guys come down. It should be a great event this year. We've been talking it up, looking at all the celebrities that will be taking part in it, and you guys can see Mike and Mike do their thing here on Monday morning that week as they bring their show down here to do it on location. Mike, let's talk about some of the things that happened today, though. We certainly had the Peyton Manning stuff that broke over the last few days, and now today we finally get some answers on the New Orleans Saints. Sean Payton suspended without pay for a year. We'll talk about Greg Williams in just a moment. Was it too much? What are your initial reactions to hearing that?
I was a bit stunned it was this much. I really was. I mean, that's going to cost him $7 million. I mean, that's one heck of a suspension and really fine, since it's going to cost him that amount. I had thought Greg Williams would get about 8 games, and I thought Sean Payton would get maybe 4 or 6 games. But this is Roger Goodell putting his foot down and saying, you have to understand, I mean, they really were egregious in their rule breaking. And I've been on the air since this first came out talking about how this happens at different places, how you have to be careful because the word bounty is what sets everybody off, that for the most part, in a high percentage of times, players aren't going out to looking to hurt people, because you could go out and hurt a guy easily and knock him out of a game. I have always maintained, for the majority of people, it's about playing football hard, and if you hit somebody hard and legally and they don't come back in the game, that's football, that happens. Now, that said, there are players that try to injure, and I do get that, but for the most part, that's not what it is. So I had this battle back and forth with people trying to explain that. But having done this for a few years, having it be as organized as it is through coaches, when it was going on, I know obviously everybody knows when I played with Buddy Ryan in Philadelphia, the old bounty bowl on the kicker in the Dallas Cowboys. But for the most part, when we did that a couple of times, this bounty thing, it was just amongst the players. This seemed to have a whole lot of organization to it, and the league warned them in 2009, and they didn't heed those warnings. It's like everybody's speeding by a cop on the freeway. You get pulled over, and the cop gives you a warning, and then you continue to speed by the exact same cop. At some point, they're going to arrest you, and they're going to drop the hammer on you. So I think that added to it a lot, and Roger Goodell came down so hard. I was surprised it was this severe, but I knew he had to come down hard.
We're talking, we're talking with our nationally syndicated morning show host, Mike Golic, joining us on the line today. He'll be down here in a couple weeks for Monday after the Masters, talking about everything that took place in the NFL today and discussing Sean Payton's suspension for the next year. So how big is this for New Orleans? I mean, he's a great coach. He's a big impact on that organization.
This is a monster. I mean, you lose your GM as well, and let's remember, you don't have your quarterback signed. It's just yet. So you may want to try and get that done pretty quickly. Now, I haven't read when suspensions go into play and all of that just yet. I'm sure we'll be finding that out. But, I mean, we all know Sean Payton, what an offensive genius he is considered to be with his play calling, and then obviously working side by side with Drew Brees and how Drew works it on the field and Sean from the sideline. This is a huge blow. When you're suspended, understand, when you're suspended, you can't be at the facility. It's not like he can go there and work in his office, but just not be on the practice field. You can't be there. He can't be there at all. Now, what happens when he's not there in this day and age of communication, I don't know. But I think that's a big, big, bad, way bad thing for the New Orleans Saints and the expectations for them, being stacked up to try and make a run at the Super Bowl. Head coach, especially when he has big input on the sidelines on the offensive side of the ball. This is huge. It's unprecedented. I mean, there have been guys, I'm sure as we look back, there have been people, we know there have been people suspended for a year before for drug violations or personal conduct policy, repeat offenders and such. But this is really, really something. The overseer of the team gone for a year.
Does Greg Williams get the chance to coach in the NFL again? What ultimately happens to him with indefinitely being put on the end of his suspension?
I think he will. I think the indefinitely will be at least a year. I don't think he'll be suspended for any less time than Sean Payton is. I would be surprised. And I know the kind of guy Greg Williams is. He's going to cooperate at this point. He came out immediately with a statement when this whole thing came down, apologizing for what he'll cooperate in any way possible right now. And I know the commissioner said he'll reevaluate, probably, I would imagine, after the year. I can't imagine him letting Greg Williams come back before Sean Payton does. So I'd imagine in a year we'd reevaluate it. Do I think Greg Williams will coach again? Yes, I do. It's just a matter if his suspension goes for more than a year or not.
Talking with our nationally syndicated morning show host, Mike Golic, joining us on the line for a few minutes today with everything that broke in the NFL. And the other big news today, Mike, of course, Tim Tebow to the New York Jets. What do you think of that?
Well, I had read reports out of New York that they were the thought of bringing him in to help kind of regulate that locker room, which has been pretty much dysfunctional. If that is a thought process at all, that's one of the dumbest thought process I have ever heard of in my life. To bring a guy in to be in a backup or a situational role to improve the locker room. That's so not fair to Tim Tebow. And I don't, that's just a report I heard. I would, to me, I'd have a hard time believing that's the Jets' thought process. As far as what he can do, let's remember Tony Sparano is now the offensive coordinator there with the Jets. He was the head coach in Miami, and remember a couple of years ago, he really made the Wildcat popular with Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams running it. So even that kind of fizzled out and teams figured it out. Now you can kind of reinvent that with a guy who can run that, plus he can throw the ball. It's not a running back doing the Wildcat. It's an actual quarterback who can throw the ball. So that's an added dimension to a package that you can use for him. Now, will this lead to Mark Sanchez, who got a 3-year extension? But, I think he's kind of a shaky starter, in my opinion. What if he starts to do really bad really early? You're going to get the same kind of upheaval in New York that you did in Denver that says, hey, give Tebow a chance because if nothing else, at least he won in Denver. We'll have to wait and see. But, I mean, as a situational quarterback, I think he could do a good job. I'm one of those who I don't believe he can do what he did last year in Denver on a consistent basis, running at that style. I think that'll get figured out. I think he's going to have to become a lot more proficient passer in the pocket before he can be even thought of as a starter in the NFL.
We've heard you talk about Peyton Manning the last couple mornings, certainly as that has developed and became official yesterday. But just real quick, your reaction to that, the other big news from the week. How well do you think he fits in Denver? How successful can Denver be now with Peyton Manning at quarterback?
Well, Peyton Manning's going to fit anywhere. He's just that kind of a quarterback. He doesn't need his Colt system everywhere. He can run anybody's system, and probably except, a Tebow system. He's not running the ball or anything. From a football standpoint, everybody, you'd scratch your head and say, why didn't he pick the San Francisco 49ers? They're most ready to win a Super Bowl out of the teams that he was looking at. But there seemed to be such a comfort level with especially John Elway and then, of course, John Fox, that he just felt more comfortable there that it would work for the next few years. So they need to fill some holes, especially on defense. Their defense is not a great defense by any means. I would imagine you'll see a couple of his former teammates from the Colts, maybe a Jeff Saturday at center, maybe a Dallas Clark at tight end, join the team, and it instantly puts you in contention. Are they the favorite in the AFC right now? Absolutely not. But when you have Peyton Manning as your quarterback, you certainly have a chance.
Sir, absolutely. Guys, he is Mike Golic. You hear him every morning with his partner, Mike Greenberg, on Mike and Mike in the Morning. They will be here in Myrtle Beach for Monday after the Masters on Monday, April the 9th. Mike, we look forward to having you come down. Thanks so much for a few minutes today. We appreciate it.
You got it. My pleasure.